It was supposed to be a quiet morning over the Red Sea. The sun had barely touched the horizon when the hum of U.S. Navy patrol engines broke the still air. For the men on board the destroyer USS Mason, it was routine, another day scanning the waters, watching the radar, and hoping nothing unusual happened. But war never stays quiet for long. Thousands of miles away, deep inside Yemen's rugged mountains, a small group of Houthi fighters gathered around an old radar screen. They weren't trained soldiers, most were young men, hardened by years of conflict and anger toward the United States. Their orders were simple: target anything American. That morning, an operator shouted he'd picked something up. A signal, a helicopter moving low across the coast, its radar signature small but clear. They believed it was a U.S. Navy MH-60 Seahawk, one of the deadliest helicopters in the American arsenal, used for anti-submarine warfare and maritime surveillance. In their minds, hitting the target would be a victory that echoed across Yemen. What they didn't know was that the helicopter they were tracking wasn't American military at all. Far above the coastline, flying at just 500 feet, was a civilian contractor helicopter, chartered under a UN humanitarian relief program, delivering medical supplies to a refugee camp on the outskirts of Al-Hodeida. The pilot, an ex-US Marine named Jackson Hale, had flown missions like this for years. He trusted the air corridors. He trusted the peace agreements that supposedly protected humanitarian flights. But that morning, trust meant nothing. A single Houthi missile, old and unreliable, roared from a launch site hidden in the mountains. Its smoke trail curved through the clouds, and then vanished. Seconds later, a bright flash lit the sky. The helicopter went silent. No distress call. No warning. Just, gone. On board the USS Mason, the radar text froze. An unregistered explosion had just appeared on their screen, a bright dot, then nothing. Within minutes, the bridge erupted in noise. Orders flew. Deploy drones. Confirm visual. Find out what went down. Within half an hour, U.S. intelligence drones sent back images, twisted metal floating on the Red Sea. The marking on the side of the wreckage wasn't military green. It was white, civilian. The first reports went straight to the Pentagon. The Houthis had made a massive mistake. By mid-morning, the headlines started to spread. Houthis down U.S. helicopter near Yemen. But within hours, the story changed. It wasn't a combat helicopter at all. Inside the U.S. Central Command briefing room, silence filled the air. Screens glowed with satellite footage. Commanders exchanged hard looks. Should America retaliate immediately, or expose the Houthis' blunder to the entire world? Behind closed doors, diplomats scrambled. The United Nations condemned the attack. The European Union called for restraint. But in private, American officials were furious. A senior defense source leaked one sentence to Reuters. The Houthis targeted the wrong aircraft. It was a humanitarian flight. That leak spread like wildfire. Within hours, the Houthis' own media channels began to contradict themselves. One spokesman claimed they had shot down an enemy aircraft. Another backtracked, saying the missile was aimed at a drone. The confusion only deepened their embarrassment. Meanwhile, in Washington, the president met with the Joint Chiefs. The question was simple: how do you punish a militia that doesn't admit mistakes, but makes one this big? Late that night, a decision was made. At 2:43 a.m., a Tomahawk cruise missile launched from the Red Sea. Its target, the very radar site that guided the Houthi missile. Satellite imagery captured a single flash, then darkness. The Pentagon released a short statement. In self-defense, U.S. forces have conducted a precision strike on a hostile radar system used to launch recent attacks. They didn't mention the helicopter. They didn't have to. The message was clear. Over the next few days, panic rippled through Houthi camps. Their commanders demanded to know who had authorized the launch. Their Iranian advisors reportedly left the region quietly, refusing to be drawn into the fallout. For the U.S., the mission was complete. For the families of the crew, it was the beginning of endless questions. Who gave the order to fire? Why wasn't the humanitarian flight properly identified? And how many times had this almost happened before? In the dusty hills of Yemen, villagers later found fragments of the missile launcher, charred metal, broken electronics, and a single Houthi insignia burned into the side. That image spread online faster than any propaganda video ever could. It showed what arrogance and inexperience can do in modern warfare. The Houthis thought they'd made a statement. Instead, they made a confession, to the world and to themselves. Weeks later, satellite footage showed their missile sites dismantled, radar units moved underground, and anti-air batteries going silent. They had learned, the hard way, that the sky isn't a place for mistakes. In the end, one wrong target changed the entire equation in the Red Sea. The US no longer needed to prove its dominance, the Houthis had done that for them. And as the waves crashed quietly against the shore, the world was left with one chilling thought. If one misfire could nearly start a war, what happens the day they hit the right target?